All right, guys. So we are back. Now, Mr. Gio, you're still there?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to ask that you just walk us back to what you were saying.
Oh, yes, sir. So I add 2.5 over 100.
So you would have calculated 0.5 over 100 times.
Times
That's what you got.
4,100.
That's what you got for your
Yeah,
commission.
that's the answer I got.
All right.
That's the answer I got.
All right. Now, I know sometimes we are a little reluctant, but sometimes you can work with fractions without the calculator.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Jawan.
So why you add the 0 to the 5?
All right. So what you got in terms of the calculation?
102.5.
Yeah, 102.5. But remember, when we are dealing with money, you have to have 2 decimal places. And so if you only have 0.5, in order to get the second decimal place, you have to add a 0 for place value. You follow? Is that clear, Mr. Gio? If you're not responding, that means you're not sure. Are you there, Giovanni?
Yes, sir.
You understand what I just said?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. All right, so that would be the commission. So it means that that salesperson would get, in addition to their pay, they would get $102.50 in addition to what they would get in their basic salary. All right, pretty straightforward. All right, here we have another question. Can you just go ahead and do the calculation for this one? And let us see what you all arrive at. Whenever you're finished, just raise your hand and prepare to walk me through your solution. All right, guys? You may go ahead. All right, so it seems like only Mr. Giovanni getting the gist of what is happening here. Anybody else? Let me see if there's anybody else who would like to share what they have. Guys, I hope you're not just sitting behind your cameras and not doing any work, because that will also reflect in your performance. All right. When I'm all right. Go ahead, Miss Clark.
So what I'm saying is, I did something, but I'm not sure if it's right. So
All
what
right.
I did, I put I try to find 2% of 2040. So I put 2040 over 1 times 2 over 100, and I get $40.80. Then I add that to the 132, I'm gonna get $172.80.
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else got what Miss Clark would have gotten? I think Mr. Giovanni, that's what you got.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Wilson, that's what you got. Anybody else who have gotten that, who actually took the time out to try the question? All right. Any question at all? Was that Mr. Campbell?
Yes, sir. No questions, sir. Just raise my hand to the question.
All right, moving on then. All right, so that is it for commission. Now we're going to be looking at consumption tax or sales tax. Now, can anybody explain consumption tax or sales tax? Anybody want to help us out with this one? Mr. Paisley? Anything about consumption tax?
Sir, like the amount of tax you pay on like food items when you go to the supermarket.
Okay, what do we call that tax in Jamaica?
General consumption tax.
GCT, right? So,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so GCT is the same as consumption tax, sales tax, or sometimes they will call it value added tax. All right, now, consumption tax or GCT is a way for government to collect revenue. Of course, you know, a part of how government run run the business of the country is that they have to collect tax through various means, and the tax they collect will go back into doing something for the country. Hopefully, that's how it's supposed to go, you know, but sometimes we don't normally play by the rules. And so sometimes what we're expecting for our money when we are taxed, sometimes we don't feel as though we get that. All right. Anyways, GCT is a percentage of the goods that you would have purchased. Now, you pay, if you buy goods for $500, you will pay a tax on it. I don't even know what the rate of GCT is now. Anybody know what the rate of GCT is?
I'm not sure, so I think the last time it was what, 16.5? Don't know if it go.
So what that would have meant is that if you buy goods cost of $500, you would have to calculate 16.5% of the goods that you purchase. And then now you have to pay over that amount. So you'd have to add that value to the $500. So you calculate the 16.5%, whatever you get, you add that to the cost of the good, and that would be what you pay to the retailer. Now the retailer will have to pay over that percentage that they collected from you to the government. All right. So that's how it works. Now, sales tax is a government tax paid on specific items. In Jamaica, we have the general consumption tax. Now, here we have an example here. Can anybody work out this one? Mr. Grant purchased a stove for 2,500. If he paid a sales tax of 10%, how much money did Mr. Grant pay in total? All right, so basically what I was just saying, you would have calculated the tax, you added to the money, and then that's what you pay. So make that calculation and tell me what you get, students. Okay, Ms. Clark, go ahead.
All right, sir, my fine. First I found 10% of 2,500, which is 250, and then I added 250 to the 2,500, and that is 2,750.
Great. So as you see, one of the things when you're calculating 10% of any money, that's very easy to calculate. You just move a decimal point one place to the left. So 10% of $2,500, you move the point one place to the left. So it's actually $250. Then you're going to add this $250 now back to the 2,005. And so you get 2,750. All right. So that should be clear to everyone. Pretty straightforward. Now, you could also approach a question this way, whereas you could say, let this be 100%. Let the 2,500 be 100%. Then you calculate 110% of it. So 110% would be the same as 110 over 100. I think there's a zero missing from here. So they're supposed to be over 100. All right. And so now you can cancel out zeros. So you can cancel out zeros here with zeros here. And then now you can multiply 25 by 11 and then add back a zero. And you should get that. All right, guys. However, the first way is pretty much straightforward. This is just showing an alternative way of doing it. All right, so discount. Can somebody tell us what discount is all about? Everybody's supposed to be very aware of how discount works, because everybody, when they're purchasing things, generally asking for a discount. So can somebody clearly just explain what discount is for the benefit?
It's basically a reduction of a price, sir.
So it is a reduction of?
A price.
Reduction of a mark price by a certain percent. Now, discount is given to encourage sale, right? Sometimes you may have goods on shelves for a long time and they seem not to be selling. And sometimes just to get the customer more interested in buying these goods, you may want to give them a discount. Now, sometimes you may be in a country like first world country where goods change out very, very quickly. America tend to change things quickly because they have, especially in terms of clothes, because they have a seasonal climate. Whenever they move from one of the season to the next, generally, like if you're going from summer to winter, you know that the clothes that they wear in winter don't generally wear in the summer. So oftentimes, in order to get rid of the summer clothes, when it gets in close to winter, they try to sell them out as quickly as possible. And in that case, they give discount. And so sometimes the discount is just at a margin where they can just make back the money that they would have bought the goods for. So sometimes these discounts can be very marginal and they probably don't make much profit from it. All right, so everybody should understand what discount is. So discount is a reduction in price. It is normally expressed as a percentage of the marked price. Now, here we have a question. A jacket has a marked price of $350. How much does a customer pay for a jacket if there's a 20% discount given? All right, can you just make that calculation quickly and so that we can move on? Ms. Trivia, are you hearing us?
Sometimes, sir, but I'm not seeing the screen all the time.
Okay, how is it now though? Are you seeing it? All right, so Ms. Trivia,
Yes, sir.
all right, Ms. Trivia having some weather condition in her part, so she may have issues with the internet because of that. All right, so anybody come up with an answer to this question yet?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Rayson.
All right, sir. So what I have, I actually found 20% of 350, sir.
Right.
So I have 20 over 100 times 350 over 1.
All right.
Zero canceling out the zeros, and then 2 times 35 would have been 70, sir. Then I went ahead to take away 70 from 350, which would have given us the discount price of 280.
All right. So generally what you would do, you would find 20% of 350, then you subtract the 20% of 300. Now, if you are reducing by 20%, that means you're going to be paying 80%. So another way you can approach this question is just to calculate 80% of the 350, and that will just give you one calculation. So when you find 80% of 350, it means that you would have reduced your payment by 20% because the amount that it would have cost originally would be the 100%. And if you reduce it by 20%, now you're going to pay 80% of what it really costs. All right. Now, in terms of calculating 20%, that is pretty straightforward too, because if you want to find 20% quickly, you just find 10%. And as I said before, to find 10%, you move the point one place to the left. So 10% is $35, and 20% is actually 2 times $35, which is $70. And so you could subtract $70 from 350 and you still get the 280. Is that clear, guys? Any question? Have I lost you there?
So I was wondering about the 80, how you got the 80. What I guess I did it a different way.
Yeah,
I
man.
did it with the
So
with the 20.
this is how most people do it. They will write the $350, subtract 20 over 100 times the 350. Now, it can be done this way, and usually this is how students will approach it. But remember now, if you're reducing the cost by 20%, that means you're paying 80%. So instead of going through this long way, you could just find 80% of what the cost is, because that's what you're going to pay. You follow?
Yes, sir.
Right. All right, good guys. Everybody is on the same page. All right. Income tax. Anybody know what income tax is? Can somebody explain to us income tax?
Something that you pay to something about paid tax by government or something like that.
Okay. All right. So when you go, Ms. Wesam, go ahead.
Sir, I was going, basically what the gentleman said just a while ago, I'm agreeing, but I know income tax is normally done annually.
Okay. All right. So income tax really is you paying back money out of your salary to government. So what you earn as your salary is your income. But oftentimes government tax your income. So even though you're earning money for yourself, government want back some percentage of it as tax. And so they call that income tax. Now, with income tax, there are a lot of little dynamics to it, because the tax that you pay might be conditional. It's based on certain conditions. Now, the condition might be, you might get a different tax, income tax payment. If you're married, you might pay less. If you're single, you might pay more. And that's one of the reasons why when they're being employed by an employer, they always ask you if you're married or you're single, or they ask you to say your status, so that they will tax you more if they know that you're single and you don't have any responsibility. They'll take more money out of your pocket. Right? But if you're married, they might give a little consideration that you have children and you have bills and so on. So sometimes, based on your circumstances, you will get what we call allowance. Now, the allowance is what given to you based on your condition. So if you have children, you will get allowance, and the allowance that you get would be things that are not taxed. So if they say, I give you an allowance for children, it means that based on the number of children, they won't tax you based on that. All right, so that's where the allowance comes in. Every person who has an income above a certain minimum amount has to pay tax to the government. Tax is not paid on the whole income. Certain allowances are made as follows. An allowance that varies for a single or married person. It's really unfair though, but yeah. Allowance for children depends on allowance for children or dependents or relative. That means if you have children, if you have persons depending on you, maybe you may have like a mother or father that is depending on you, or maybe if you have other relatives that depend on you, they will take that into consideration. Allowance for superannuation contribution, mortgage and interest. All right. Now, if you are paying mortgage on house or some interest, etc., they may give you allowance. Allowance for the premium of the whole life and endowment assurance policy. All right, so they have a list of things that they will give you allowance on. Normally, it will be listed in the question what your allowances are. So definition here, the residue of the income left after the allowance has been deducted is called taxable income. So what this means, what you're given allowance on would be the things that are not taxed. So what generally happens is that if whatever they give you as allowance, you would subtract your allowances from your income. So they don't tax your income when the allowance is already in it. What they do, you have to subtract your allowance first, and whatever remain, that's what they tax. So the allowances are tax-free. You don't pay tax on the allowances that you get. So they will tell you how much you get in allowance, then you will subtract that allowance from the overall income, and then whatever remaining after you subtract the allowance, that is what they will tax. And so it is called your taxable income. So that's how you calculate what you're going to be paying tax on. Your taxable income is the portion of your money that will be taxed after they take out the allowances. All right, so here a man's salary is $5,500 per year. You know, that couldn't be so in Jamaica, but let's work with that figure for now. His taxable income is found by deducting the following from his salary. So here are some deductions. So because he's a married man, they allowed him $2,000 that is tax-free. No tax for $2,000 out of the money. If you have one child, then you're allowed $400. If you have national insurance, then you are allowed $150. If you have life assurance, you'll be allowed $360. So these are the things that you are allowed tax-free. All right, so he then pays a tax of the standard rate of 35%. Calculate his taxable income and the amount he has paid in tax. So based on what I've been saying, then what would be his taxable income? Can anybody just tell me what you think that would be? All right, I hate to be calling on the same persons all the time. Mr. Campbell, I haven't heard you for a long time. Can you tell us what the allowances will be and what the taxable income will be? Well, all right, so Mr. Campbell is not responding. Go ahead, Ms. Clark.
Okay, sir, to get the allowance,
Right.
you'd have to first, add all of his allowances, the 2,000, the 400, the 150 and the 360. And I got, 2,910. So that's the allowance, and then you subtract that from the 5,500, and you're gonna get 2,590, which is the, taxable income.
So, all right, so based on the calculation, you would add all the allowances, and you say you get 2,910, so that's the total allowance. That means this is a tax-free part of your money. They are not going to tax this portion of your money. So the portion that they will tax is the portion after you subtract your allowance. So his salary minus his total allowances. Here you will get $2,590. So that's a portion that will be taxed, and so that is known as a taxable income. Is that clear to everybody? Everybody see?
Sir, could you move back to the question so I can get a screenshot, please?
All right, the question. All right. Here is the question.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right. And just for reference, the slides are on the website just the same. All right, guys. All right, so here you calculate all of the allowances. Then you subtract the total allowance from his salary. And then you will get 2,590. So that's a portion being taxed. So now it is being taxed at 35%. So you find 35% of that amount. So the total tax that he would pay $906.50 for income tax. Any question, guys? Is it clear how you calculate taxable income and the tax that you're supposed to pay? Any question, guys? Raise your hand if you're following so far and you're comfortable with how this is done.
No questions, sir.
All right, very good. All right, moving along now. All right, so we have one more to look at. Is hire purchase. Can somebody explain hire purchase for me? Or we could probably leave the hire purchase, so we could do it next class. Because apart from hire purchase, there are more topics to cover on the consumer arithmetic. But we should be able to cover this in one more class. And then let me see the hands of those who actually went and read up on this topic before they actually came to the class. I had asked for students to do that. All right, Ms. Cox, very good. How did you find that approach, Ms. Cox? Did it help you?
Sir, you mean like go through the notes before coming to class?
Yes.
Yes, sir, it help, but when we come class, we get to understand more.
Exactly, and that's what I always say. Even if you go, once you go through it on your own, even if you don't clearly understand it when you go through it, it really becomes clearer now when you attend the class. And that's what I want you all to try and do. I know it's not easy for most of you because you're working and sometimes you don't have the time, but you know, try to arrange it, see if you can squeeze the time to look at the question. Even just even take 15 minutes and try to just browse through it. It will still make a difference. All right, guys. All right, so I'm not going to do the hire purchase now. So I'm just going to stop here for tonight. And
Sure, question.
yes, go ahead.
About the SBA, sir, you said I must leave it until online class.
Okay, so for the SBA, we will be assigning students in group. I generally have a group, you will be put into group, which will be WhatsApp group. And from when you're placed in your groups, then you will decide on a team leader. You'll have your own discussion, decide on a team leader. Then you will also go ahead and choose the topics from the list of topics that are posted in the SBA menu. And once you've chosen your topic, you also can read through the guidelines for the SBA in the SBA menu, and you can look at the samples. But there are 2 sample SBAs that are there. You can go to the samples with your group members and discuss the samples. Now, after you discuss the sample, you will now decide, because you'll have at least 5 persons, at most, not least, at most 5 persons in a group. So there'll be no more than 5 persons in a group. So once you have your group, you can now share up the different tasks that you will have to carry out in completing the SBA. So,
Sir,
yes.
for me, you will be putting me in the group?
Yes, I will be
Okay.
assigning students in the group, and I have not yet assigned the students, but I had made note that maybe the coming week I will be putting you in groups. All right, and while I'm doing that, I will take the time out to actually walk you through some of the guidelines for the SBA. So maybe our next class, we can do that for the benefit of you all. All right, guys, because once you form your group, you can go ahead and start doing the research that you need to do in order to collect the data that you need to collect. All right. So in the meantime, before we meet next class, you can just go ahead and look at the SBA topics and have some topics in mind that whenever you meet your group members, you can have that discussion with them. Is that clear, guys? Any question about it? Any other question?